think it's time to officially start, but I think we're quite a cozy group of people today, as was expected. But for everyone who is just joining, welcome to the stream. We were talking about all kinds of stuff, yeah, let's just start with our first Q&A session, I guess. I love to talk about kind of the programming and background and thoughts about how things are going to evolve. But let's get started with the stream. So some people of you had questions earlier. Please just copy paste them again. After the Q&A, I will announce the topic for today. Alright, and while you think of questions, I will get some water. Alright. How do you intend to allow tourism to work in a game that uses procedural buildings? I imagine landmarks will exist in some form or another, but besides from that, I mean, other things will be of interest to tourists, like museums or government buildings labeled historic. Will there be a system to label such buildings, or would all buildings be more historic and interesting? So there will definitely be stuff like procedural landmarks. There will be museums that you can I guess zone, and they will be procedurally generated, and all of these will attract tourism. What would be neat is if for example, you have a very unique kind of terrain, like for example access to the sea, or like beautiful mountains, that in itself would also create touristic value for your city. So yeah, these are my thoughts on tourism so far, but obviously that's far in the future. Will there be an option to make cars drive on the left side of the road? Yeah, and as I said in the last stream, I think I will even make that the kind of reference implementation of a mod. So there will be a mod that comes with the game that will make cars drive on the other side of the road. And for people who want to make mods, they can look at how that was implemented and how you can kind of integrate a mod into the game. Hi Darksman, nice to have you here. How did you discover the stream? I'd be interested in that. No, we're not all devs here, but some of us are. Which font do you use for the Citybound logo and now also Notepad? That's correct, Miso. It's a part of the font is free. I really like it, and I even bought the skinny version of it to support the artist. I really think it has this nice abstract and technological feel to it. Yeah, also check out the link that Phil posted. In addition to the normal FAQ, we now also have a wiki page that contains a transcription of all the questions in past live streams, and a lot of should be covered there already. Are there pipelines for water and sewage in Citybound, or will it be implemented just in SimCity 2013? I think I will first just do it like, or I guess I will do a combination that they will be included with roads per default and you can just connect everything to that. But if you want to create manual connections between separated chunks of the city, for example, you will have the option to create pipelines or power lines anywhere. How complex do you plan to implement the routing algorithms? I guess you mean the routing algorithms of cars. Right now they basically just use A* pathfinding, which finds the closest route. I will adapt that to take into account different types of roads and that you are faster on a highway, for example. And ideally I also want to take into account existing traffic on the road, but this is something that's pretty complicated to do because you have to update the traffic data live and update the routes accordingly. And there might be some way in which I can simplify that. I will have to think about that. Could you implement tourist beauty in a similar method to The Sims 3? Each lot had a vista value. Yeah, there's kind of like this. I mean, for example, you can assign vista value just to lots close to the sea, or to lots that are on a like border of a plateau or a mountain where you can see a lot. And this is something that you can just figure out pretty easily mathematically if you look at the height map. Yeah, but you could also figure out the kind of vista value for procedural maps. How in-depth will the terraforming tools be? I don't know yet, to be honest. I mean, there will be the basics like rise, lower, flatten, smooth. Maybe more. I'm sure you told us already, but can you just briefly say why you didn't like the idea of doing this in Unity? Because I would have to map everything to the kind of mental model of the people who created the framework behind Unity, which is great and pretty generic, but it still uses this kind of entity component architecture that a lot of game engines use, which is great for all kinds of normal games, like first-person shooters or third-person games or even strategy games where you have a manageable number of units, for example. In my case, it kind of breaks down because of everything that there can be in Citybound, like cars or buildings, there can be a lot potentially. So in many cases I built the architecture in a way to support a lot of them from the beginning, and each single unit doesn't have the kind of amount of detail or even importance like in other kinds of games, but more the collection of all cars, for example, is important to handle, and that's why I just wanted to basically build my own engine that thinks in this different way. What, can you post a link to that, please? Do you think you will run into problems with the procedural asset generation, given that each building is distinct and needs its own place in the graphics memory and its own draw call? I don't think so, because I already combined basically all the buildings into one static mesh, at least all the buildings in one grid area on the map. So I don't have the problem of draw calls, and additionally I don't think that the building geometry will become so complex that I will bottleneck the bandwidth or the graphics memory. And if I do, I will implement, or I'm pretty sure that I will implement a level of detail system where only nearby buildings will actually be created in full procedural detail, and buildings that are farther away stop the procedural generation earlier and don't add details, for example, and you won't notice because they are far away. So yeah, that's kind of how I would use the bandwidth and memory that the graphic card offers. Hi Farfurry, nice to have you here. Can't you let the cars take traffic of yesterday into account? Yeah, sure, that you could add some kind of delay or slow integration over time there, and that would be easier to implement. But I will just have to experiment with that. On what timescale do you see yourself finishing Citybound? By which I mean version 1.0, a first complete package, or whatever you have in mind. I'm just going to say 1 year. But it really comes down to what you define as complete, because even after version 1.0, there are so many things that I could think of, like new features that haven't been on Citizen so far, to increase the detail in the existing features that, I mean, in theory, I could just work forever on it. So I'm not even trying to give an estimate there, really. Are there going to be car accidents? Will they be for looks, or will they actually impact citizens? Well, first they will just be for looks, and if I have time I will implement that they actually impact, for example, the citizens' health or something. Or even require like emergency response. You did some very nice work on lighting a while back. How complicated do you intend the lighting engine in Citybound to eventually be? I'd love to, and I don't know how well versed you are in this area, to actually have a full deferred rendering system built on top of WebGL, which right now isn't really possible with Three.js. Maybe I will have to build my own small rendering engine for that, because then you can have stuff like a lot of lights. For example, the individual car lights could actually light the scene, and you could have thousands of them without the system breaking down. You can have stuff like soft shadows, can be done much easier. So right now I'm just using what Three.js offers me, which is kind of hard shadows and not deferred rendering engine. But in the future, when I have time, I will make that more complicated. Will there be different biomes like deserts and tundras and stuff like that? Yes, I guess so. Will the trucks from the farms and from the industrial sector drive to one customer target, or will one truck drive to more than one target at once? Right now they will only drive to one target, but I will change that pretty soon, I guess. That they can just visit several customers at once. Will buildings regenerate after loading a save file? No, because the procedural generation algorithm is deterministic, and each building stores its seed value. So all the randomization in the algorithm depends on this one seed value, and if you reload the game, the buildings will look exactly the same again. Alright, I'll give you time for, like, let's say 5 more questions, and then I will announce the topic for today, show you kind of a little bit what I've been working on and what we will do today, and then we'll get started. Yeah, they have an example for deferred rendering, but it's just an example and not really part of the official API yet. Hi. How complicated will the imports-exports market be? Do you intend everything to need resources at a lot of detail, or keep it simpler to a couple dozen resources? Even with that, be careful not to make the same mistakes as Cities XL. I will keep it down to a few resources to make balancing easier. I don't know exactly what you mean with the mistakes of Cities XL, if you could elaborate on that. Okay. What do you feel is going to be the biggest hurdle in development upcoming? To be honest, I think balancing all the different needs and resources, and yeah, making sure that the game is fun. I mean, all the features are of course very complicated to implement, but at least that's something that I can figure out after a while. So the hardest part will just be doing playtesting and finding out why it isn't fun, how to make it like a tighter feedback loop, for example. But I'm not quite there yet. I hope to get there soon. Alright. So as some of you already saw, I have Transport.js and cars open. Today we will try to start implementing multi-lane traffic. And First let me show you what I've been working on earlier today, because I finally got multi-lane intersections working. So now you can do stuff like this, and it will create a proper intersection for that with all the right connection pieces. But the problem is now that the vehicles can't really intelligently use multiple lanes yet, and that's what we will start to implement today. I will have a look at the link that he posted. Oh no, that's something else. That's A* is the method that I'm using. Oh, I see. Alright, so let's actually try to get up a kind of test scenario that we can keep reusing. I will try to... So where we will basically force the agents to switch lanes, but not with merging lanes, because they already know how to use them. But I want them to switch lanes here between two regular lanes that are just next to each other. In a second you will see how it's implemented right now. It's implemented in a very stupid way. Do you see this car? It goes along this lane, and then at the end of the lane it just restarts at the next lane here. And that's how they're connected, because it was simply the only thing that I could implement quickly when I did that. And today what we want to do is to make them actually smoothly change the lane over to the other lane. Because they don't know how to do that. Man, who is asking you drag from the rightmost lane all the time? Is that something that we have to do to draw roads properly? Sometimes yeah, because for example if you start in the middle lane, it will only start drawing a road from there. But you can actually start, for example, from the rightmost line on the other side, and it will work as well. So you can actually choose how many of the lanes you want to continue. Alright, let me have a look at the link that Nick DeGraaf talked about earlier. I want to have a look at that. Yeah, this is basically, I mean, the part with the matrix doesn't really mean anything, because it just means that you store how much traffic there is on each lane, and that you redo the pathfinding using this new information. And the problem is not the problem is that right now I'm doing something where I actually cache the paths that were found in the past, so other cars that use similar paths can reuse that. And I have to do that a lot, because doing individual pathfinding for every car would be prohibitive. Like, that's just too much CPU work. But because many cars actually reuse the same parts of the city, it can be sped up a lot by that. Now the problem is that if you want to react to changing traffic as well, you have to update the path costs dynamically. So you have to basically throw out all the nice paths that you cached and have to recalculate more again. But I will see about that. Yeah, he mentions GPU, but the GPU doesn't really help with that. Yeah, it's hard to do pathfinding on the GPU. But I won't go into detail there yet, no. Alright. So I think you saw what the problem is. Let me rebuild the scenario and try to save it so we can open it when we implement new stuff. Right, let me see if I can save this. No. Yeah, I had a problem earlier when saving and I might need to fix that first. Let's see here. Lanes 538. Or let's actually... I first have to fix this bug that occurs during saving right now for some reason. So... we have some problem while saving the lanes. The first lane... yeah, basically because we deleted its right lane, but it thinks that it's still there. No, here it thinks that its right lane is still there, even though we deleted it, and that's why we can't save it. So let's try to fix that first, if you don't mind. We will have a look at this remove lane function here, and I suspected that's why I have it open. So if we remove a lane and it used to have if it used to have a right lane at B, then we have to... no, if it used to have a left lane at B, I will... ah, transcoders, nice. How many people are we? It doesn't show. Does anyone... no, that's not the amount of viewers. This is the amount of all views ever. Yeah, I think the logic behind retranscoders is that they offer it to the top 900 streams running right now. That's at least what Phil said. And I guess a lot fewer people are streaming at this time and day, so we have a better chance of being in the top streams, so we get transcoding options. Okay, so to give you a bit more of an idea of what's happening here, I will explain something to you that I will need to explain anyways for when we implement the cars using multiple lanes. And that is basically all the kinds of connections that lanes can have in Citybound. So let me draw you some pretty pictures. Basically a lane in Citybound is just a connection between 2 points A and B, and that's also what they're called in code. And it can of course have lanes next to it. For example, if it has a lane exactly next to it and they both go in the same direction, then we can say that the left lane at A, and yet let's give them names like lane 1 and lane 2. So the left lane of lane 1 at A is lane 2. The left lane of lane 1 at B is also 2. But now if we have stuff like this, where a lane actually goes away, let's call this lane 3, then we say the left lane of lane 1 at A is lane 3, but at B, lane 1 doesn't have a right lane. Okay? That's how it works. We also have some other cases where we have merging lanes, for example. So again, 1, 2, here's A, here's B. And in the code I say that lane 1 has a merging lane right, and this is lane 2, and lane 2 has a merging lane left, and this is lane 1. The opposite case is when you have what I called a forking lane, where you have a lane splitting off like this. Here's A, here's B, lane 1, lane 2. Lane 1 has a forking lane right, and that's lane 2, and lane 2 is a forking lane left, and that's lane 1. Yeah, these are basically the kind of relations that lanes can have. Of course, each lane can have one or multiple next lanes, or one or multiple, I'll draw multiple here, previous lanes. In addition, a lane can of course also have a neighboring lane that goes in a different direction. So here we have lane 1 again, and it goes in this direction. And then we have one lane going in the opposite direction, and its A is over here and its B is over here. And this lane also knows if the lane next to it is going in the same direction or opposite direction. Let's have a look at what that looks like in code. For example, here we are checking, we want to remove a lane, and we want to see if at point A of that lane we have a lane going in the opposite direction at that point A. So this is what it looks like in code, and I don't know if this is starting to make sense to you. Yeah, they are like a linked list, but they have more than one connection, because they also remember their left and right lanes and so on. So the bug that we have right now is that if we remove a lane to the right, let me also try to draw that. So our scenario is this. We have a 4-lane road. Two going in this direction. Two going in this direction. So here we have A, B, B, A, B, B. And now all of these lanes know that they are next to other lanes. So the problem that we have in our code, if I look at the exception again, is that we remove this rightmost lane. So remove this, but now this lane here still thinks that it has a lane to the right of it at B, but there is no lane anymore. And that means that we have to check what's happening when we remove this lane. For all of the people who just joined, let me say again, we will implement multi-lane traffic today. We will start to implement that, but first we have to fix a bug that happens when you remove lanes. So what is our case? We remove a lane and it has a left lane at B. This is our case, and so of the lane to remove, the lane to the left, and I found it. Here's a typo, this should be B. Because we say that it no longer has a right lane at B, and the relation which tells us if it's on the same side or opposite side is set to -1. So now if we rebuild the same scenario, we should be able to save it without a problem. So now if I remove these two lanes again, it shouldn't be a problem anymore. Go on. Let's rebuild this last part to be straight, I think, because they don't want to build there. Well, let's make it like this. Alright, so now let's try to save. I hit Ctrl S and we successfully saved without an exception. So if we reload the map, it works. And you can again see the problem that cars are now doing this. They go here and then they respawn here at this point before they can go onto the next lane. This is just a very basic, basically placeholder implementation of changing lanes. And what we want to do today is that they actually can change lanes, and it looks reasonable here. And first let's just try, as the very first step, to have them go to the middle of the lane and then just immediately teleport over to the lane that they want to change to. Alright, so the way we want to do that is we go into cars and we go into our update cars function, and the way it currently works is if each car basically knows which its next lane will be. So wait, let me think about that for a second. I didn't look at this code in a while. Alright, so first we will have to do one implementation change, because sorry, I'm getting distracted by some people here having problems with the stream. I hope that transcoding will start buffering better. If your internet should support it, try Source. Alright, so the way I implemented it now is that basically a car doesn't even know where it will go next, but as soon as it hits the end of its current lane that it's on, then it asks the pathfinding which the next lane should be. And the pathfinding, for example, will tell it continue on this lane, or for example switch over to this lane, what we just saw. But the problem is that we want to check the next lane now, even when a car isn't at the end of a lane. So we have to actually save the next lane for each car, and don't look it up only when we arrive back here. So that's what we will do first. So here we will add a new field that's called the next lane. And now when we put a car on a lane, when we set the destination lane for a car, then we already set its first next lane, so we already know that. So the way we do that is we just reuse this and we say car next lane, and we ask pathfinding to get the next lane on the shortest path. And now we basically have to remember to do that earlier. So now if the car reaches the end of a lane, then we want to transfer to the next lane. And in the past, this is we did the lookup only then, but now we already know the next lane, so we can just say that car lane equals car next lane, and then we have to update car next lane now. So it kind of looks identical, but the difference is that we now can use this next lane. We already we know next lane earlier, and we can use it earlier. Let me just see if that works. If we disable a car, we want to do car next lane small. Let me think about anything else. No. Alright, so now we know the next lane ahead of time. And that means we can now say let's just do one case first. If car next lane is equal to let's say right lane A, and it's equal to right lane B, so if our next lane isn't actually the next lane but the lane to our right, and we have gone further than half the length of the current lane, then we will just immediately teleport over. So we will do transfer car to next lane and remove car from all lane, transfer car from, yes. Let me think. We have to do all of that as well, yes. Basically this sends the information where the car is to the GPU so it can draw it in the right place. This is just for debugging purposes, and these two methods, remove car from all lane and add car to new lane, basically lets the other cars on these lanes know that the car now switched the lane. Let me have a look at chat. I think no, cars aren't smart enough to not merge into other cars already in the lane, but I don't know how far we will get today, but we will do that soon, because they already know how to avoid cars on their own lane. They don't know how to avoid cars on other lanes, but first let's just try to get them to switch lanes. Yeah, and we will implement this in React to Traffic. React to Traffic right now only takes into account the cars on the lane of the vehicle, not on other lanes. Sir Xer, we're implementing cars changing lanes, yes. Alright, so let's try that out. The problem is we can't use the save feature right now because we introduced this new field here, next lane, which we don't yet save in the save file, so I will just have to rebuild our small scenario. And look if it works. But it shouldn't be too much work. Delete these, add residential, add commercial. And now what should happen is that the cars drive to half of this lane and then teleport over and continue driving there. Let's see if it works. Are they employed? They are employed. They should start going to work soon. And now the game stopped. And we get exceptions. Destination lane is not defined. Oops. Just a small error. The problem is the layout that I already saved. Back then cars didn't have this next lane field. This is some new information and we don't save that in the save file. So if we now load the save file, the old save file where cars are in the process of going somewhere, there won't be any data inside here and everything will just crash. So we can't use the save feature until we actually save this and load it in the save file. But let's just try to get this working first before we incorporate it with the save feature. Alright, so I made an error in Set destination lane. We set that to, or let's make this more explicit here instead. Let's call it destination lane. Yes, that seems better. Let's try that again. Where's our debug window? What? Oh. Reload. Rebuild it. If it works, I will add that to the save feature so we don't have to rebuild it every time. Right, yes, it works. Do you see that? They go to exactly half of the lane and then they switch over. So before we do anything else, let's actually add next lane to the save file. So we can reuse this scenario again. So for that, let's have a look at how cars are saved. Now this is something pretty low level because we actually tried to store the information as compact as possible. And let's see here. Right now for each car we save its ID, its position, its current lane, its destination lane and destination position. We will have to store now also its next lane. And let's do that in between here. So if it has a next lane, we save that in the save file, but now we need 4 additional bytes to store that because it's a 32-bit integer. So we need to increase the number of space to give cars in the save file. And then the saving should work. And now of course in the counter part we have to also read it again from the save file. So again we read 4 bytes from our save file, and if we had a next lane saved, we figure out which object that is and we add it to the car. Or do we even need to do that? We don't even need to do that because we use put car on lane here, and that already figures out or does it? No, it doesn't. But do we also set destination lane? No, we have to do it. That's right. We have to do that, yes. Yeah, let's do that. So now our new information should be saved in the save file. Let's see if that works. So now what we will have to do is we will have to wait for the cars to start, and then when they're driving, save and make sure that this information is saved. Alright, save. So let's try it again. I hit save. Let's see if there are, alright, no exceptions during saving. So if I reload the map, it's there and the cars work. Do they work just fine? I guess they do. We didn't get any exceptions. Let's try that again. Open up again. What does this car do? It immediately goes there. That's strange. Oh, I made an error. Oh. Oh, that's stupid. I didn't even change that. That's what you get for copy pasting and not paying attention. Thanks for making me aware. Ball, can you please keep that question for the next Q&A session? Right, let's try again. Let's see if I also... This should be fine. Yes. Yes. Let's try again. Whoops. I want to delete that. Let's hit save, reload, and now it should work regardless. Yes. Alright, so now we're also saving this information. What if you put stores on the other side? Let's just try that quickly. Then they should do a U-turn at the end of the road. But the U-turn also doesn't have an animation yet. Whoops. Let's do it like that. Put them on the other side. Then the cars should do a U-turn. No, they won't do a U-turn, they will just drive up to here and they can enter the house from the closest lane. Yeah, there will be a tool to delete only part of a lane, where you can click and drag to choose how much you want to remove. Yeah, maybe you saw that car could just enter the shop from here. They don't have to switch lanes, they can enter the shop from there. Alright, let's reopen our example. And now let's try to... What do we want to do first? Yeah, let's try to make it look smooth first and then make it react to traffic on neighboring lanes. What happens if the stores are in the first half of the first two-lane road? So the stores... then something strange will happen. Let's try that. So I guess you mean if we do it like this, but then add the stores here, so before our lane changing point. Let's see what happens. I think it will just throw an exception because it doesn't know. So now this, let's see, they make a U-turn and then they enter it from here. Ah, so that even makes sense. This is what happens. So if they can't change quickly enough, they make a U-turn at the end. Yeah, car sync and car generator would be a really nice tool. Yeah, maybe we'll even implement that later. Let me think about if I want to do that. What if there's stores on both sides of the roads? Will all cars go to the same side? No, because each car has its own individual destination and it will use the side that's closer to the shop where it wants to go. Yeah, the problem is that we will have to think about where a car can change depending on the traffic next to it. So let me actually think. I think we can debug this if we also add homes here, because then we will have traffic on both lanes. Is that correct? Yes. So let's use this as our new scenario. So we have both lanes. Yeah, I think that's a good scenario to use for that. So let's actually rebuild that. So we can reload it exactly at rush hour. So we want to add homes here and here. And then we add shops here. Now we save that. How interesting, I don't know why that car spawned there. We save that, we reload. And now we have nice amounts of traffic going on whenever we reload, so we should be able to, yeah, make them react to each other. And as you can see, they try not to run into cars on their lane. RG asked why did those cars do a U-turn when the destination was before halfway through the lane? Because basically they didn't get to the right lane in time, and then the only way to get there was to do a U-turn. Alright, so Let me get some more water and think a little bit about how we want to do this, and then let's implement it. So be right back. Alright, let's reload that, see again what happens. Also, there's still a bug that after reloading all the zones and these connection errors are shown, but we're just going to ignore that for now. Let's actually do something. No, I think we have enough traffic here. Alright, so now we want the cars to be able to change at any point in the lane, but first we want to make it so there's a minimum distance that it needs to change lanes, and we actually want to implement the process of changing lanes, not to just be an instance, but to take some space and time. Alright, so let me think about how to do this. If we change lanes, the cars is kind of on 2 lanes at a time, so and it occupies space on both lanes, so it should register itself as an obstacle on both lanes. The question is, how does the car know which lanes it is on if it's on multiple lanes? So let's maybe introduce 2 new fields, and maybe we can do this easier. No, I think we just need 1 new field, and let's call that merge progress. We just set this to, let's set it to -1 per default. And let's also just set it to -1 here when we load. And now what we will do is we will slowly make the car merge over, and only have it fully changed lanes once merge progress is complete. So let's think about how to do that. Where is it? Update cars. So if our next lane alright, so let's think about this. Let's uncomment this, or let's even remove it. We can start at any point. If our car merge progress is -1, then we set it to 0 because we want to start merging now. And let's introduce something, just a constant called merging speed. And what would be a good speed? Let's try something like 1.2. Yeah, 0.2. So basically, yeah, we want to update car merge progress by merging speed times dt. By the way, the cars already have a random speed each. They have a unique max velocity that they want to reach, so there's already some variance in driving behavior. Alright, we increase merge progress. And when we start merging, we want to already add the car to the next lane as an obstacle. So let's change this here. Is this used anywhere else? No. Let's change this here to just, whoops. To, where were we? No, I got confused. Add car to new lane. Let's just change that to add car to lane. Lane to add to. And let's change that to add car to lane. Here we just use the new current lane. Let's do the same for remove car from lane, just to make it more explicit. Lane to remove from. And let's also do car.lane here, because in the normal case when we move the car to the next lane we want to do that. And but here we want to add it to a lane that it's not yet on. So what we do is we say car add to lane. No, add car to lane, sorry, this is not a member function. This car to its next lane, not the current one. And only if the car.merge progress is now greater than 1, which means we're done, we say that first we reset it to -1, so we're not any longer merging. And then we remove the car from its current lane. And then we do the transfer to next lane. Yeah, transfer to next lane. And we don't have to add it to the new lane because we already did that when we started merging. So let's see, this should work in theory. By the way, I'm mostly ignoring chat right now. You should create a Facebook page. Please ask that in the next Q&A session. Alright, thanks for these mistakes. Let's see here. In remove car from lane. Ah, thanks. Again, I'm not paying full attention when I'm programming with the chat also on the side. You also renamed remove car from all lane, but not remove car from lane. Alright. Thanks for catching these. Let's try to see if it works. So what it should look like is the cars should just start merging, which is invisible to us, and then after some period teleport, but that is probably no longer at the middle of the lane, but earlier or later depending on the value of our merging speed. Maybe they won't even make it at all. So we have to change the merging speed first. Let's see. Let's wait for some costs to spawn here. Alright, and we get an exception. Everything stopped. Remove cars from all lane is not defined. 133. Did I miss one? 113. What? Cars 113. Okay. Ah, remove car from lane. I also used that there. Let's make sure. Okay, we don't have it anywhere else. Let's reload or reopen. See if it works now. Let's watch this car. He didn't make it. Huh, that's interesting. Alright, let's just do something drastic and console.log the merge progress just to see how fast it progresses. I guess it's just as slow. Yeah, just it's feel free to just chat about whatever. I'll try to not get too distracted and watch it from time to time. Alright, let's see how fast they actually merge. I think it's just way too slow. Let's reopen that. Watch our messages as soon as one car starts to merge. Alright, so yeah, they just barely get to, they don't get to one, so we have to make it a little faster. Yeah, let's make it like 4 times that. So let's just say like merging speed is 1. Let's see. Okay, so it got to 1, but the car didn't switch lanes. Why is that? Did I forget something? We have to write the car info to the GPU so it displays it correctly. Let's reload. Yeah, now they're switching at after some time. I wonder why it's kind of random. I guess it depends on their speed, because their merging speed is constant, but their speed along the lane is different, so it looks like they merged later. But it works. Yeah, maybe too fast now, but we'll fiddle with that. So now what would be nice is to actually see them visually merge as well. And for that we basically have to send this merging progress value to the graphics card, because the graphics card, if we have a look at this right car lane info, no, sorry, if we, so alright, let me explain in more detail. We basically send 2 pieces of information to the graphics card for each car. Which lane is it on? And how far is it on that lane? So that's the car lane ID and the car and the car position. And then the graphics card figures out where that actually is in the world. So the way I did that is that the reason why I did that is because it's very difficult to do all the geometry work in JavaScript to figure out or to convert between road position to world position. So we just tell the graphics card which road it is on. The graphics card also has all the information where the roads start and end, and then the graphics card can do this complicated transformation of road position to world position. And this actually happens in this car simulation and vertex shader is what I called it. Let me see here, do I have GLSL? No, I think I will have to install a extension first to get syntax highlighting. Let's do that quickly. Let's just try this one. Right, now. Do I have to restart? I think I have to restart Sublime. Let's restart Sublime. Tell it that this is... Oh, where is it? Oh, here. It's GLSL. So now we have syntax highlighting. Can I set open all with current extension as GLSL? Yes. Alright. So you can see here that we have a car info texture, which is just a big texture where we store which lane the car is on and the position of the car on that lane. And we have a lane info texture that gives us the start and end points of all lanes that exist. And what the graphics card then does is it looks up that information. So it first finds out which lane the car is on, and then it looks up where this lane starts. So we get the start and end positions and the direction of the lane. And then we basically figure out, using the power of geometry, where the car should be put on the screen. The simple cases where the lane is straight or almost straight, we can just do some linear stuff there. If the lane is actually curved, we have to do some more complicated geometry there. So now what we want to do is we want to also send our merge progress value to the graphics card, so we can add an offset to the car's position to make it look like it's actually merging lanes. And as you can see, we even have place to store that, because basically each pixel in our car information texture has 3 components, just like a normal pixel in a texture has, but we only use the first 2. So in the first channel, or in the first component of each pixel, we store the lane index. In the second component, we store the position on the lane. So we have carinfo.z free to put our merging process there. So yeah, let's think about where to do that, because in, let's see, where's update cars? Alright, here in write car info. Right now we just write the car position. So now let's also write the car merging progress. So car info texture. And basically each car even has 4 components because we have an alpha channel as well. So we'll store in the third component of each car pixel, we'll store the car dot merging progress. Alright, let me check the chat quickly. But the merging car never moves linearly, it has an acceleration and deceleration to its turn. Yeah, we'll just, first we'll do it linearly and then we will look if we can do more interesting geometric stuff. But no, we're actually, now we implement animation, we don't do teleportation anymore. Also let me know if you guys understood the whole thing with which parts we do on the CPU and which parts we do on the graphics card, and the way the information is transferred. Did you get that? And of course we will later also do more interesting stuff like change lanes to avoid traffic. But first I want to make it look reasonable. Yeah, the accelerate and decelerate, we just won't care about that for now. We can always add that later. Alright, so let me actually elaborate on the CPU-GPU communication. Just very quickly. And yes, I do need to optimize using the GPU because JavaScript is too slow to do this transformation. As you might know, usually you use the graphics card to draw stuff on screen using a shader. So you have some kind of geometry. Let's just use like two triangles that are floating in space, and you send them to the GPU. You send the geometry of these triangles to the GPU, and then the GPU decides to draw them, and it will actually draw every single pixel of these triangles on the screen. And you can influence how it draws these pictures with something called a shader. And the way it works is that for each of the pixels it will execute a program that you give it, and in this program you can use a texture. I guess you all know what textures is. Let's just use some, I don't know, just texture like an image, and you can say, for example, map the pixels from your texture to the screen in such a way that we will actually see the picture here, okay? So that's what a graphics card is basically made for. What I'm doing is I'm abusing the graphics card to do other stuff for me than this, but I also have to do it in a shader. And let me explain. So what I just explained to you is a fragment shader. Fragments are pixels, where we do something for each fragment. But before we execute the fragment shader, we can actually do something in a so-called vertex shader, where we actually change the geometry, the position of the geometry, and can deform it before we draw its pixels. So what is a classic example of a vertex shader? Let's do, I don't know, if you just have the stick figure and you send the geometry information of that. Let's say here's always CPU, GPU. If you send the geometry information to the GPU, you can first apply a geometry shader to make it all squiggly, for example. And then you draw the individual pixels of your geometry. And what I'm doing is I'm abusing the vertex shader of the cars, because what I do is I say that all the cars in our city, they're just rectangles, so two triangles, are actually at the position 0, 0. So if this is our coordinate system, they're all at 0, 0. And we just send it to the graphics card like this. So if our graphics card didn't do anything else, we would just have all the cars on top of each other in the middle of the map. But then what I do is I also give the graphics card to information textures. So they work exactly like images, but they contain just different data. And that is what I call the car info texture. Also, I hate to write with my mouse, but it will have to do. And I know that there's a text tool. So we send two textures that contain car information and lane information. And in the car information texture, each pixel contains, and I guess I start using text now, each pixel contains a car lane. Oh, which font is this? This is stupid, let's not use that. Let's just draw everything. It contains the information which lane we are on, and the position on that lane. And then the graphics card says, aha, okay, so I know now which lane it is on. And in the lane information texture, we have information about all the lanes in the city. So let's say our lane is something like, I don't know, the 137th lane. So we look up the corresponding pixel in the lane information, and what we get from there is the start point and the end point of the lane and a direction. So what that looks like is we now have the information that, for example, we have a lane that goes like this. Here's our start A, our end B, and our start direction. And from that we can figure out the curvature. And what we now have to do is we have to take our car here that is still at the center of our world, and we have to transform the coordinates of its geometry to be on the correct place of this lane. And for that we use AB, the direction, and our position here. Alright, so did you get that step so far? How does it understand that there is a curve instead of a straight line? Basically, it just, in case of a straight line, you would have it like this, A and B, and you can just check if the direction at A, which we also get from our information texture, lies on top of that lane. If they point in the same direction, then it's a straight line. If they are different, then we have a curve, and we can use geometry to figure out the exact position. Yeah, exactly. I let the GPU calculate where the cars need to be in the world. Alright. I hope at least some of you got that. Because now let me try to explain what we will do now. Now we send an additional piece of information in our car info texture. So we had lane, position, and merging progress. And what we want to do is, let's say we just have a straight line, and right now our shader would draw the car here, but now we want to make use of our merging, progress and offset the car to the right, for example. So we want to update the position, let me use a different color for that, like green, of the car to be actually something more like this. If the merging progress is, for example, 0.7. And we'll use that to make the cars look like they merge. Okay, good question by Nick the Graph here. What is the benefit of doing it on the GPU rather than the CPU? The GPU is much faster. The GPU will do this in parallel for each car. And remember that GPUs have a lot of cores, so we can do like hundreds of cars this calculation at the same time. And JavaScript is really slow, especially for number crunching stuff like this geometry operations. Yeah, I mean the GPU is really made for these kinds of geometry transformations. So that's why I do it on the GPU. Alright, so I hope it's clear what we will do now. I think this is the most in-depth visual explanation I've ever done so far. So yeah, here we now store our merge progress in our picture that is not a picture, in our texture. We just abused the picture, I told you about that. Yeah, we will use, let's use negative progress for merging to the left, but let's first just implement merging to the right. You can pop out the chat. If you click here, there should be a pop out option for you. Alright, so now we get this information and now we can use it here. So we can now say merging progress, and this should be our third component now. So what we want to do is let's first consider the case of a straight line. This is kind of not written in a very nice way. Let me try, should I write this in a cleaner way? Yes, probably. So let's introduce some more variables. Rotated vertex position relative to plane. Just use very verbose names, but at least we know what the hell we're doing now. And then we need to add that to the start point relative to A. Let's call it that. Basically what we're doing is we are transforming the... Should I draw a picture for that? Yes, why the hell not? What we're doing is we have our car untransformed like this, and we now know that our lane goes like this. For example, let's say here's the center of our car. It's 4 meters long and 2 meters wide, and we now want to change the coordinates of these vertices of our car. So what we're doing is we figure out the direction of this road. We get this from the lane information texture. So we now know that the lane goes in this direction, for example. So let's say this is X, this is Y. What we do is we now first rotate the car, and we do that by just multiplying this direction by 4. So 4 in this direction, and that's how we get the X coordinate. And then we take the perpendicular direction. I guess in America you draw it like you do 90 degrees like this, right? In Germany we draw it like this with a dot. We take the perpendicular direction and go in this direction 2 meters. And now we've basically rotated our car. And the only thing that's left to do is to put the car at the right spot on our road. Yeah, and yeah, we don't only do 4 meters here, but we also do the offset on the lane, position on lane, and then we add A to that, and then we have the car in the correct position. So now what we want to do, if we would just want to do a linear shift, is we also want to shift the Y position of our vertices by our merging progress. Beautiful handwriting there. Merging progress. Alright, so let's try to do that. So let's introduce some more variables. Let's call that just X offset, split it apart so it makes more sense. Y offset. Whoops. And here we just basically copy the Z coordinate, which doesn't matter right now anyways, because our world is 2D. So now what we want to do is we want to add something to Y of Z, and that's let's call that, we have a direction, let's call that vec3 perpendicular. A direction is our A direction rotated. And we want to add to that our merging progress. And let's actually change something. Let's not use -1 as the default value, because we might want to use negative values to merge to the left. So let's use 0 here and 0 here, because then we can just say multiplied it by, or add merging progress to that, multiplied by our lane width, and now we should have a linear shift. Forgot a round bracket, thanks. Oh, thanks for catching all of my errors. Alright, so now it should look like they smoothly switch lanes, at least for straight lanes. And since we're using straight lanes, we should see it. After that, we can try the more complicated case where we're on a curved lane. Did I fix it now? Yes, merge progress 0. Merge progress 0, alright. Let's load it up and look at what it looks like. And we get lots of errors, and now we have to find a syntax error. Rotated vertex position relative to lane, undeclared identifier. We should use the same name here, of course. Come on. It works, and alright, do you see what the cars are doing? Our animation is working, but it's going in the wrong direction. Alright, but not bad. So we actually have to change our sign before that. So minus merging progress. Let's look at that again. Alright, now they're changing, but they are getting reset, which is just a problem of we forgot to notify the graphics card that they now completed their lane change. So yeah, let's look at that. I think we just forgot something there. Alright, so merge. Oh, we have to set it back to 0 here as well, of course. So if it's 0, oh, okay, no, we have to change it like this. Yes, that's true. Okay, let's look at that again. Don't worry, I will look at it like almost every 20 seconds. Don't worry, I'm reading the chat. So yeah, now it looks like they smoothly change lanes, even though it looks a little strange because they didn't actually turn. But we can make that more complicated at any point later. Let's do a quick bathroom break and a short Q&A session, and then let's continue. Hold on, I wanna try something. Haha. Be right back. Just making sure that we're actually recording. Yeah. Don't worry, you won't hear me poop, I closed the room. Also, I can't send my mom to get new pretzels because I don't live at home anymore. Schraube drin. What do you mean with arcs? Yeah, basically the way the way pathfinding works is that the nodes are basically each lane, and you know which lane each building is connected to, and to do the pathfinding, I figure out the shortest path in the graph of all lanes. Yeah. And what do you mean by fully connected? I'm using Open Broadcaster as recording software. Yeah, we will implement merging to the left in a second after this break. But yeah, but sometimes you could have completely disconnected parts of a city, and then not every lane is connected to every other lane. Right now, agents take the shortest route, but in the future I will add additional cost influences like the type of road, and ideally at some time either the traffic right now or historic traffic, and of course also some randomness. Have you made games before? Only small ones. Let me show you one. You can find them on my homepage at aplay.co. For example, I made Distracted Goose, which is basically Flappy Bird, but before Flappy Bird existed. It's also a canvas game, and you fly this tiny goose, but the catch is that you have to try to eat berries from these bushes, and they are very seldom bushes, and you can't crash, of course, so yeah, and you have to try to survive. At the bottom you see your hunger bar, you can't let that go down to 0 as well. And that's the challenge of this game. I made this for my family on Christmas, just as a small thing. So another small game that I made, I think for my brother, I like to make games as presents, is this game where you basically just have to jump from lily pad to lily pad, and you have this strange kind of paper fish following you, and that's basically all that happens. And you can try to beat your own high score. Here the lily pads are also generated procedurally, every level is different. I have been parts of bigger game projects in the past that sadly didn't go anywhere in the long run, but there I also did some 3D programming, level design, pretty much all that you can think of. I did a lot of just for fun modding work with the CryEngine. Yeah. Learned some level design and stuff like that there. Alright, is everyone back? Can we do proper Q&A now? I'll wait a little more for the people on... oh no, I think I can start the Q&A proper now. Alright. Did the goose just poop? No, it doesn't do that. It looks more satisfying than Flappy Bird. Well, try it out. Yeah, that's true. I will make it so that people prefer freeways, even if it's longer or even if it's a little longer or takes longer, because in real life you also try to stick to big roads, especially if you don't know the place, simply because navigation is easier. Will cars be able to merge when crossing a node? Yeah, that's something that we will have to try in a second. If yes, how do you make cars distinguish between a normal node, continuing a road, and crossing? Lanes that belong to a intersection or crossing have a special tag, and we can just disallow that there. But that's so after this Q&A we will complete our implementation to make sure that cars can also merge left, and then we will think about this problem that cars can merge over the crossing of to a new node. Do you plan to make the entire game by yourself? A question I get a lot right now. Yes, it's the only way I can really do it, because I need to iterate quickly and communication would just get too much in the way. Also, I don't really know whom I would trust with my code right now, but at some later point there might be parts that are nice to kind of separate out from the project and to have them do almost in isolation, and even later I might find people whom I want to work with together closer. Right now I do have two musicians on board that already wrote a lot of nice tracks that I kind of teasered in some of the update videos, and I really enjoy working together with them. It's a lot of fun. They're great guys. Where can we? What do you mean where can we? Where can you play the game? The Goose Game? You find that on my homepage, aplay.com. Are you planning on doing merging from lots? Yes, that, and we can maybe even reuse our merging progress thing by, for example, using values greater than 1 that could be used for merging into lots, but let's not do that today. Will cars merge multiple lanes, say across a 3-lane road? Right now I guess they would have to do 2 merges in succession, in immediate succession, but that should be possible, and it should just look like it will merge across 3 lanes. Say user interface, can I outsource that, or graphic design or soundtrack? Yes, soundtrack I'm already outsourcing. I have musicians on board, as I said. User interface, the problem is I really have strong opinions on how I want that to look like, and I have so many detailed thoughts about that in my head that I think it's just easier for me to implement it rather than trying to communicate those ideas to someone else. But I will just see about that. Yeah, buildings and cars, graphics, stuff like that, procedural buildings, I definitely want to outsource ideally to just the whole community and then integrate the best works of the community into the game. To do collision detection when changing lanes, won't you have to do that transformation to find out where the cars are in world space anyway? No, because let me draw a picture. For collision detection I can work using just the position on my road. So if I have a car here and I have a car merging from this lane, for example, I have all of the information that I need. I know how far they are on the lane, I know how far the merge progress is, and I can figure out if they collide using just this information. I don't need to do the transformation into my 3D world position. Yeah, we could implement parking lanes like this. Can you give us a link to SoundCloud of these artists? I think at least one of them. Cloud Dane Morgan, is that what he's called there? or maybe that's an old channel. This is the channel of one guy, and actually the topmost song that you can hear will be part of the Citybound soundtrack. This is something that he wrote for Citybound, which I really enjoy. And let me just try to find the other guy as well. Yeah, this is the other guy. I don't think he posted Citybound soundtrack there yet, but this is some of his older work. So yeah, give him a listen. Will the car slow down when doing a turn? Right now, no, but that can be implemented in the future. Yeah, I think that is correct, what you're describing. No, Melon Who, that is something else. This is just something that I enjoy listening to. These guys have nothing to do with the game. You plan on generating cities procedurally and let the player continue to build a city. To some extent there will be some very slight procedural generation when you start a map. There will be some initial roads and stuff like that. This is something that I will do soon, just so you have some initial structure to start building on. But in theory it should be possible to procedurally generate whole cities, but that's not something that I will implement because it's pretty complicated and I don't really feel like there's a reason to do that in the game. Because if you want to start with an already developed city, you can just open up the save game of someone else who built a biggish city. But a mod can of course implement procedurally generated cities. I just thought of a complication of collision avoidance. What if one lane is moving faster than the one you're covering? Lanes don't have a speed. Each car has an individual speed and you just have to check if they overlap. Regarding lots buildings, can you draw a lot to the flatland gardens of a lot without destroying the lot as a whole? Yes, this is exactly how I want to implement. I didn't implement roads destroying buildings yet, but I will also do that soon. And I will make it so that it will only destroy the building if the road goes through the building. If it just goes through the garden or the parking lot, the garden or the parking lot will just become smaller, but the building will stay. And yeah, I want to have that in the alpha already. Alright, last questions please, and then we'll continue. Also, I won't be streaming as long today because I have places to be. I guess I will go for another hour at least. Let me check that quickly. Again, what is it today with police? Usually Munich is such a peaceful place. Yeah, I will do at least one more hour. So much action outside just for you. How does the player control building density in general? It isn't implemented yet, but there will be a density tool that works similar to zoning, where you can basically set maximum density just for everything. It won't be included into the zoning tools, but it will be a separate tool and have its own separate visualization in the world. Yeah. Yeah, I think the police are coming for me because I watched EA's talk at the last games developer conference and stole all their know-how. Is there a fixed feature list for the finished game? Nope. There's not even a fixed feature list just for the alpha. I just try to focus on the next step. I have a pretty clear image of how I want many details of the game to be, but there is not like a big plan. Won't there be feature creep? Sure, this is the greatest risk of this project, I guess, and that's why I focus on the bare essentials right now. Will one zone type have multiple algorithms for building generation? Yes, because zones are decoupled from building types. There can be many building types, and each of the building types can say, for example, I can appear in residential zones, and then basically all building types of one zone type are in competition with each other for who gets that zone, based on demand of course also, but there can be many different building types for one zone. Will there be high density? Yes. Also, why do you ask this? I don't get why people ask these very basic questions, like what would a city building game be without high density? That just will make sense, right? Can building generation consider other nearby buildings when choosing what to build and parameters, right? Something like this would be very nice, because right now the building generation is just completely random, and while that looks nice and organic, in real life you sometimes have, of course, buildings next to each other that were built by the same architect and have a very similar style. So I will try to incorporate something like inspiration of nearby buildings into it, so you have this kind of nice mix of both uniformity and randomness. What is your idea for a mod? Will buildings like stadiums affect traffic? Of course, because they will attract tourists. Yeah, that's something that I thought about myself. I won't include it in the vanilla game, but that would actually be a nice mod, that you see a suggestion for a procedural building and you actually have to give permission to build it like that. I think that's pretty much a perfect thing to do for a mod. Yeah, that's true. Alright, I will get some more water, think of some more questions, and then we'll continue. Yeah, I will try to implement just basic higher density buildings soon, but first I want to get the roads and traffic working to actually support higher density buildings. But I want to implement that really soon, just to stop these kind of not stupid but maybe impatient or very worrisome questions about high density. Are we seeing parts of the core code that are going to be obfuscated on stream? Yes, probably from time to time. The sole obfuscation thing is even something that I'm not really sure about if I want to do it. I mean, ideally I just want to give buyers the whole source code, but then again I want to put like a minimum distraction to piracy in there. And I think that the engine part of the code is a good way to do it, because I can still publicly document its API, and without it the game won't work, so you can't really steal it, but it's not the interesting game logic stuff that you want to see, so that's why I want to do it like that. But maybe from time to time you're gonna see it on Steam, and that's not a big tragedy. And yeah, this is also something like, if I sell enough copies and like get rich, for example, of course I will make it as open source as possible at this point. But in the beginning I think it's wise to be at least a little careful. Nope. Have you mentioned whether it will be possible to implement speed limits on roads? Yes, sure, that's possible. Why should it not be possible? Yeah, that's why I don't want to implement it in the vanilla game, because it's really micromanaging. But a mod can offer it, and maybe the mod can also... You can configure the mod to do it for every building or just for large buildings or important buildings. For example, stuff like airports is something where I might even want to implement it in the actual game, because if you zone like a big area for an airport and it just fucks up the procedural generation, it looks horrible, you don't want that to happen, so I might even implement it for this case. Will there be car accidents? Yes. Will the player be able to manipulate lot parameters like height, for example? Yeah, I mean, I would just cobble it all up into this density parameter, but mods can offer much more detailed control over building parameters, also using these kinds of zoning brushes, and just take control over different parameters of buildings. Like there's also stuff in real life, I guess, like offset from the road, and all of that could be encoded into an own kind of zone or a zone description. Alright, last questions, please. Is there a risk of someone putting the game online and letting everyone play for free like a web game? Yes, there is, but luckily the game... But it would be hard to port features like the save game feature, especially if parts of it are obfuscated, because that you would have to think about some way to do that. And I think this is where a lot of the like privacy protection will come from. But this is something that I don't want to waste too much time worrying about right now. I will think about it straight before release, but I think I can come up with something that is both secure and open for legitimate buyers. How do you plan on handling security, health and education? Ploppables? No, more like zones. Read the FAQ of previous streams. What about option to legalize or not legalize gambling in certain buildings? I think there will be stuff like ordinances. I will include a couple ones with the game itself, and mods again can add additional ones, of course. One-way streets, yes. Yeah, I will do that soon. Alright. Let's continue coding. I will move you over to my second monitor. And let's try to get merging to the right going. So we will need a different scenario for that, of course. But that should be fairly simple. We just do this and then do this. Oh no, hold on, we have to make it, we have to give them some place to change lanes. Nope. Like this, please. Like, come on. Like this. Delete those two. Alright, so this will be our new scenario. Let's save that. Now they should try to merge left. Right now they will do the stupid alt thing, I guess. Yes. but let's add left merging. Can we open it again? Yes, that works. All right, left merging. So we just have to copy this and do it all in the negative. Is that it? Of course we have to change this. Thanks for reminding me of the Q&A overlay. I still have to get used to stuff like this. So, did I miss anything? No, this should just work. Let's open it up, see if they merge left. And... no, why? Why do you not merge? Why you no merge? Because I didn't save? What? Oh, stupid. Exception? What happened? Why is there no one? Yeah, he's merging. Did you see him? And he's merging. Yeah, it works. Alright, now we have left merging as well. So... alright, let's try our what we talked about earlier next, where we have to change over a node. So we have something like this and we add another section, and or let's make them even shorter so they won't finish merging before the lane ends, but they should continue merging on the next lane if it's actually a continuation. I guess let's no, we didn't do that yet. No, let's do it straight. Yeah, sorry. Alright. Well, let's make it short. General 656, please have a look at the FAQ and everything if you are new. Welcome, of course, but please check out the FAQ. I will post the link. Does it work? Yes. Alright, so let's try to get the scenario right. 2 short segments where they don't have enough space to change lanes. And let's just see what happens. Let's save. Alright, so what they do is, okay, they can't even, I just show that. So now they of course try to merge only in this segment. Now the question is, how can we make them merge earlier? So how do we want to do it? Because only when we arrive here we know that our next lane will be to the left. And then after that they are just trapped with their merge progress, which they didn't continue yet. Let me give a couple of minutes, I guess, to think about that. So of course we want to start merging as early as possible. So I think there's even something that we might need to change in our pathfinding to make it merge as early as possible. Yeah, the problem is that right now I can't look further than one node. And if possible, I don't want to do more than one node because it would just complicate things. I would rather have the pathfinding system tell the car to merge early. No, I guess, but we will have to. We will have to look further than one node to know by when we have to complete the merge. Anyways, so let me think a little bit about that, please. Basically what we want to do is, or what we want to get is, we want to get the lane by which we need to be finished merging. And we want to get told that as early as possible. I mean, the Pathfinder should be able to supply this information. I'm just thinking about how and when it should do that. Yeah, the problem is here, of course, we could merge the road segments into one, but there might be other cases where we can't because there are curves, for example. Yeah, I just posted a link to the... I'll post it again. Yeah, each lane does know its length, but I want it to be possible to merge over multiple lanes, if that's possible in the game world. Okay. So basically what we need is some kind of information how much distance we have left to merge. The question is, where do we store that, with each lane, or then we would have to... No, I don't mean merging over multiple lanes, I mean merging over multiple lane segments. Should we store that with the lanes? No, that would be kind of redundant and we would have to update that a lot if we... This should be more something that is calculated on the fly, not stored permanently, because then we don't have to change any data structures. Yeah, if he enters a new lane, he will continue merging. That already works. The problem is that he starts merging too late. Because basically what happens is they go here, and then they think, ah, next I have to go to this segment, so I just drive straight, and only here do they realize that they have to change lanes. And I'm thinking of a way to tell them that they can already start merging here, or even on this lane. So basically what we have to do is we have to find out what the next target lane after merging is and when we can start merging there. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't make that impossible in just using UI. I think the best place for this really is in the Pathfinder, because it constructs the path and it can figure out the earliest place where I can merge. But then the problem is maybe we don't want to encode that into route itself. Alright, so let me draw some stuff. I need to understand this myself. So we have something like this, and we have many segments in between. And we want to be able to just dynamically start merging anywhere. Whoops, how do you close this? We want to be able to merge here, maybe merge back if traffic necessitates it, and do whatever we want, basically just making sure that we merge before this ends. Let me actually, this is not a merging lane, it just kind of ends. It just ends here. Yeah. So perhaps what we have to get from the Pathfinder is not the information of the immediate next lane here all the time, but only of the target lane that we want to merge to, and before that we can just do whatever we want. And as long as we are on roads that are still connected. So Yeah, the problem is the lane that ends might not be a lane that ends, but it might be one that just goes away somewhere else. Pathfinder doesn't know about other cars on the road. That's why we don't want the Pathfinder to tell us when to merge, but only the last chance where we can merge physically. Yeah, but Melanhu, you're right that we should of course avoid tiny segments, but we should still be able to deal with them. Alright, so... basically what we have to do is kind of, for example, we have this situation and we're somewhere here and we don't know what is in between here yet, and the Pathfinder only tells us that we want to end up here. We only know that there's multiple lanes here, but not how many segments. So what we want to do is for each car to actually look up which segments to use. So we might want to do something like this, for example, and then start merging here. But we should figure this part out on the fly, and the pathfinding should only tell us that we have to get here by the time, yeah. Alright. Let me think about that. Yeah, Sanders is right that it takes a lot of processing to do that for every car. So how can we do this while keeping the amount of calculation that we have to do for each car to a minimum, while also allowing the car to really change lanes dynamically based on traffic? Yeah, this is kind of what I'm thinking of right now. But then the car has to think about, has to figure out the rest. Alright, but yeah, but I think I have a solution for at least part of it. So the way I will do it is, for now we will forget about switching lanes both ways, and we will just focus on making sure that we get here in the end. And this goes somewhere else. So I won't worry about switching back. So now what we have to do is we only have to make sure that the Pathfinder tells us to start merging as early as possible. And then if we don't make it in time, we can try to continue merging here. And if we still don't make it, we try to continue merging here. And in the last one, we really have to make sure that we merge. So the first part will be to make the Pathfinder tell us that to merge as early as possible. And we won't worry about merging back right now for traffic purposes. Let's try to keep it simple. Yeah, and we could even implement it that if it doesn't manage to merge here, we'll just go back and ask the Pathfinder for a new path. Alright, I will do another quick bathroom break and think about that. And then I think we can even start implementing that later. Yeah, but the problem is this will be a lot of overhead in the data structures, which we don't really need. Yeah, I will try a hacky solution first. And then I will make it smarter. Alright, but I think I know how to do it. As I said, I first want to make the pathfinder tell us to merge as early as possible. So let's have a look at pathfinding. So here we basically have pretty classical A star, with the difference that that we don't only consider the following lanes but also the lanes next to us. And I think we have to make some adjustment here anyways in our cost function. Because right now we always say that distance to the next lane is equal to our current lane length, but that's not really true, because if we merge lanes we don't need any more distance. So yeah, that's something that we want to do. Negative 34, the cars do move on rails. Yeah, but I'm still trying to avoid this as much as possible, because as I said, more storage and computation comes with that. And I think I found a simpler solution where we just tell the car earlier to merge and it still should be able to do it. Yeah, this is something that I thought about earlier, but I don't think we even need it right now. So let's try to not implement it. Let's try to get it to merge as early as possible first. And so first we want to make sure that we don't add the distance if we just merge to a different lane. Yeah, I realized that, but I first want to get this working, so they try to merge really as early as possible. They might not always merge left from where they start, if there are parts in between where you can't merge. And also they might not merge immediately if traffic doesn't allow for it, so yeah, I'll just try to do that first. Alright, so now at least we don't get a strange penalty for merging like we did before. And I think now the pathfinding algorithm even considers merging first because it has a much lower score, so maybe that already works. No, but we should make sure that it prefers merging first. So how do we do that with a star? Yeah, I saw about cities in motion and what that looks like, where they merge immediately after coming from the on-ramp on a highway, for example. And yeah, just let me think a little more about it. Yeah, actually let me give some more time. I mean, this is something that I needed to do anyways. Give me some more time to think about it. I mean, maybe we won't even get finished with this today in the stream, but let's just think about it together. Maybe we do find a nice solution. So yeah, I guess we do need some kind of we need to encode that information somewhere, but maybe not with the lanes. Maybe we can do that. Yeah, I do need a complex all-in-one solution, because then I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I'm trying to find the next step right now. Alright, so let me try to understand your suggestion in more detail, Niels. You want to store with each lane, whether it's a splitting lane or not, right? But then I still have to look up the next few lines to find out when the next splitting one will be, right? A flag on each node is not that problematic. More problematic is I don't want to compute a lot of stuff for each car, and I don't want to have to update this new information that I store very often for each new road connection that I create. I want to keep those two things to a minimum. Storing stuff in itself is not that much of a problem. Filter search on split nodes. I mean, basically I only have to know the next node that will be a split, right? And until I'm there I can just do whatever I want. Correct? Is this how you think about it? Yeah, still, but that sounds really complicated because I have to figure out all of the roads that are affected. That's like... I think we can do it simpler than that, no? The problem is cars don't work outside roads. That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, the problem is not figuring out how much distance we have left, but the problem is to figure out which other segments we can even merge to, because right now the pathfinding only gives us this one very specific path, and the actual challenge is to figure out what are my alternatives. For example, this would be an alternative, this would be one, this isn't really one because, or it's still one, but after that we have to merge. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out right now is how do we get this information about alternate lanes that we can also be on. Yes, of course it will take road deletion into account. And with split nodes, I think the guys mean this point at which we have to change lanes. Yeah, but this is exactly what happens now. And we wanna have them merge earlier if possible, because else they might not make it. Yeah, but this is not the problem. The problem is not figuring out by when we need to merge. The problem is to know which other lanes they are to go anyways. Yeah, this is not the problem, guys. The problem is where I can merge before that. Merge isn't bound by segments already. A merge can already go over multiple segments, but the problem is that we don't know, we don't get notified early enough that we can start merging now. This is actually our only problem right now. And the question is, how do we do this? How do we tell the agents of all possible ways they could use? But yeah, I could create a tree, but that's just so much work. But then again, Earlier we had encoding. Do we not have encoding anymore? Yeah, I think I have to do something like that. That the Pathfinder doesn't actually think about individual road segments, but considers all road segments that are a bundle, as you call it, as one, and we just merge there however we want. So basically, we have to change the way that pathfinding works, I guess. Let me try to draw that in a picture. So we can have a very complicated lane configuration, like, I don't know. Let's just do something like this. And this consists of loads of segments for some reason. Now it looks like railroad tracks. But the problem right now is that my pathfinding operates on individual segments, and we don't really want that. We want pathfinding to operate on these bundles. And yeah, I guess the next one would start here, continue up until here, and then this and this. And we basically only want to do pathfinding between those nodes, not the individual road segments. Right? What do you think about that? Yeah, I mean, this sounds like it's really the solution, but the problem is that I will pretty much have to rewrite the whole pathfinding and traffic system. But I think, I mean, the nice thing about it is that it kind of decouples the road segment representation from everything else. Because now there can be as many physical segments and all the cars will just don't worry about it. We won't be streaming much longer. I think I will, because this will be a big change, like I will have to re-implement a lot of stuff for that. Yeah, I will have to do that. I'm just thinking about all the details that it entails. But it shouldn't be too hard. Do it live? Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, that's really hard to do. And I have to finish today's stream soon. Yeah, that's true, but that's all stuff that we would have to implement anyways, and it will be nicer in this new system. I might actually do it in one of the next live streams. Like, as I said, I won't do it today. Alright, so I guess let's just do that in the next Thursday's live stream. How about that? Yeah, I like that idea. I might do some preparation work off stream, but we can do the bulk of re-implementing this new system in the next live stream. Yes, I'm working on the game in between. Okay, I can do a big city, I guess. Let me... I just want to fix one more thing. I just want to reset this. When we didn't make the merge. Yeah, you wish. Awesome, that's nice to hear. Yeah, I will add some posters and that stuff like that soon. I will build a city in a second. Yeah, actually let me answer this question because I... Alright, no, I won't do a city today, I'm sorry, the game is just... the current state it's in doesn't really support that, because remember last live stream we did lots of transport and good, and that's completely unbalanced, so I don't even know if I can build a larger city. But I promise you I will do that soon, but I will do a final Q&A now, and we can talk about all such stuff. Alright? Let's go back to our nice picture. Yeah, I would love to add a huge poster as soon as there is one. Making big buildings is simple, but the problem is I want the traffic system to work first, so the cars support it. You want a sausage picture? Alright. Do you feel you are more productive with camera on? I don't know, I think I talked about this in the last update video, right? Of course I get much more distracted, I'm not as focused on the code itself, but as we saw today especially, I get lots of help on like small stuff like typos or just small mistakes that I make, but I also get this great discussion with you guys where we actually plan out how to implement whole features together, which is just amazing to me. It's usually I'm an enemy of brainstorming. I don't think it really works, except in our case it's, I don't know why, but it's different because there's still this one person who has like the final say, which is me, and I can just choose which suggestions to ignore, which ones to take into account. And I guess the imbalance of me being able to talk and you just being able to type makes it much less noisy than a normal brainstorming session, and yeah, it feels very, very productive to me. So let's get to this point. I think I'm slowly agreeing that I will have to make the time conversion much slower to allow for large cities. And the way I will make this work is that I will just completely decouple the day-night cycle of everything else in the game. So you might have weird stuff like a building finishing in like 4 hours of a day, but you kind of have to think of it as these kinds of 2 layers of time displayed at the same time, because of course we could have one-to-one mapping of time and have everything move really quickly and have everything in proportional times, but then you wouldn't see what's happening at like the slow level of detail. So what I want to do is I want to overlay the 1 day kind of time frame and the 1 year kind of time frame on top of each other, so we have a slow day-night cycle where people have enough time in the simulation to reach their work, so it doesn't take them like 5 hours to reach the other end of town. And still buildings will build very quickly, so you have this bigger cycle of change on top of that. I think that's how I will do it, and I think I will find a nice balance there. Will there be vids in German for people who do not understand English? A couple days ago some guy also wrote me this, and no, why would I just learn English? It's just, why don't you know English good enough to understand me? Would there be traffic signs that are randomly generated and ploppable? Yes, randomly generated, definitely. Ploppable, maybe, but not important. So you came to the conclusion that 1 real-time second is 6 seconds in game time. So that means, let me think, that 1 in-game day lasts 4 real-time hours, right? Which still feels a little too slow for me. I think I would go for something a little quicker than that and try to balance it with unrealistically fast cars. I would do something like maybe 1 in-game day equals 2 real-life hours, or 1 in-game day equals even 1 hour. I think that is still better. Right now it's 20 minutes, I think, right? Did I correct? Or just 12 minutes even for 1 day? Yeah, I think so. Something like that, but I think 1 hour or 2 hours being 1 in-game day is a nice balance. But sure, please send me your documents. You might even I don't know which community you came from, Text and Mirror, but if you wanna post it in the Citybound subreddit for people to also see it and discuss it, that would be great. Because I want to keep as much of the discussion public as possible. Will there be a tool that just lets me draw on the map without anything to worry? You mean like a planning mode? Yes, there has been discussion on that, and that will be something that a mod can implement. Or you mean just like you don't even mean planning mode, you just mean drawing on the map? Yes, something like that is definitely possible, and might even be part of the guideline feature, that you can just draw and construct stuff before you actually build it. Yeah, something like you describe as hyperspace button might also be something that a mod implements if you want to disable traffic entirely. Oh no, I can't see your full pause. But where are you from? From the Something Awful forums? Because if so, I read everything there. I might have forgotten some things again, but I read everything there. Will the alpha be done this year? Yes, I really hope so. My goal is 2 months, but I don't know if that's realistic. Feel free to ask some more questions, I still have some time before I need to leave. Is it worth paying to join Something Awful? No. I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, I joined because for me there's of course lots of value of discussing with the people there. But I guess you have to be already kind of into the community to consider paying it. How much will the alpha be? $6 more or less. Ah, okay. Don't turn into Dwarf Fortress release cycle wise, what does this mean? Like, do they release so seldomly? I mean, as soon as the alpha is out, I want to do really rapid releases, like almost one release per week, maybe 2 weeks, and just give the new features out to players as quickly as possible, even if they might be a little broken, but I need to test them anyways. Have you looked into Stream Greenlight yet? Only precursorily. I will only start applying to that once I have my own kind of alpha program going at least. What types of public transport you got planned? Look at the wiki, almost everything that you think of probably. Yeah, it's DRM-less, but it will still be on stream, just without DRM. So what do you think of adding another day of Twitch on Tuesday? Well, on Tuesday I have to produce the update video, which is actually a lot of work. So I will only do Thursdays and Saturdays for now, and that's already borderline of the amount of time that I want to spend on that. But keep in mind that I also work on it in between. How will the mods work? By calling predefined hook or just by overriding existing methods? In the beginning it will just be very stupid and they will override existing methods. and then when I kind of get a feel for what parts of the game mods use, I will add a nice API and hooks and stuff like that. I would love to explore your code. You will be able to explore most of it as soon as the alpha is out. It's not going to be in the browser, it will just run in the package browser that I give it. If you buy the alpha, will you get the full game? Yes. Awesome. The game logic part will be open source, the engine code won't be. If you use Steam, will you gain a Steam key if you buy? Yes. I would actually prefer each switch a little shorter, 3 hours max. I mean, today we've been doing 3 hours, right? So I don't know, how did that feel in comparison? I mean, for me, something that I might want to look at is to actually make the streams shorter, but do them maybe 3 times a week. But for now I will stick with 2 times and just do as long as I want to. I will experiment with that in the future. Do an update view on Twitch and then highlight it and then what? Oh, you mean instead of the YouTube updates? But I like the idea of having a nicely produced update video that is short and to the point for people who don't want to watch the streams. Yeah, this is also how I want to implement it. I want the mods to be enabled on a per map basis, so if you give your save file of your map to someone, it has stored in it the information has stored in it the information which mods are enabled, and the game will then, if you don't have these mods, download them. So there will be some kind of mod management package system. But this is something that I will implement after the alpha, but it will be pretty essential. I want to do something like that. More in my pants jokes, okay. I will try my best. Alright, any other final questions? I will get water one more time and then I'll answer the last questions. Yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. And the good thing is that there is already kind of an architecture for this, because I don't know if you know this, but there's the node package manager, which you can use to manage JavaScript packages for Node.js, and it basically has all of the versioning and dependency logic built into it. And if Citybound mods would just be npm packages, I get all of the functionality for free almost. So I guess that's how I will do it. And you can even have really nice stuff like this mod depends on exactly this version of this other mod, which would just be so much cleaner than any other mod systems that I've seen so far. You prefer waffles or pancakes? That's hard to say. It really depends on the day, I think. Yeah, mods will have a central repository, but that's of course also architecture that I need to implement. Why have you chosen a binary format for save files over a simple JSON file? Because a simple JSON file would be much too huge, because it contains a lot of redundant information. If you think about it, for every car I have like an object and position, and just these letters just take up way too much time. I tried that at first at one of What was it? Yeah, actually one of the first traffic prototypes I implemented a simple save functionality that just dumped everything as nested JSON objects, and even a kind of medium-sized city with like a couple thousand of cars, couple thousand of roads, the save file would be like several gigabytes and take like 10 minutes to save, so that's just completely out of the question. But the binary format actually seems reasonably quick and small. How do you feel that you're going to use a special browser? Why exactly did you do that? Because it allows me to use JavaScript and WebGL, which I'm really familiar with, at least JavaScript so far. And I can do very rapid iteration, as you saw today. I just have to change a file. I can even do stuff like change the code of the game while it's running. I have excellent tooling, the developer tools that are included with the browser that you also saw earlier when I, for example, used the debugger to catch exceptions. And also I will be able to offer these tools to the modders who can also write their mods in JavaScript, which is a very widely known language. They can also use the debug tools that are included, which will make mod development just much more comfortable. How does the tap water taste like? I guess you can hear that it's tap water, right? Tap water in Munich is excellent. I mean, it comes directly from the mountains. I love it. Yeah, exactly. If NPM would allow me to do all the kind of stuff. Will there be weekends? You mean in game? Yes, I guess so. Yeah. I just answered that. Alright, any last questions for today? How large is the code base at the moment? Let's find out. So let's be careful to really only include code. Do you mean with external dependencies or without? I'll do without, just my code. So this should be all of the code there is. Let's see how big that is. 340 kilobytes. In lines, I don't know how to find that out. I'm not going out and I don't drink, don't worry. Well, I'm going out, but I don't drink. Will buildings remain procedural in terms of design, or will the place have an impact on looks? If yes, how? I think they will, at least in a vanilla game, only have limited impact. Basically only regarding density, but again, mods can offer more control there. When are your results coming out for the exams? Yeah, I wish I knew that. It's like, sometimes it's really quick, sometimes it takes a long time depending on how many people they have correcting it. I already get no, I only got 1 grade for my seminar and that was nice, but not the big important exam yet. How big is the biggest bug glitch that you produced? There were lots of funny bugs with the road system when everything didn't connect properly. You can look at that at the Citybound Twitter profile. Just look at the pictures there. How will procedural buildings be rendered and dumped in the game? Will they change? Can bits be removed or added? I guess they will need to be able to change, because you want to have stuff like a construction animation, of course. So there needs to be something like change. Alright, last questions. Alright, then but I want construction animations, because for me, if I think back to A-Train and the Autumn Cities, that's really what made me most excited about it. When I saw that, oh, there will be new growth soon. So I really want building animations. I'm still inspired by the architecture in Mirror's Edge. Probably not so much the lots of metal glass, but yes, high rises and clean looks. This is mostly what I meant, like a very reduced style that is detailed but mostly flat. Not a lot of texture, just smooth, like you describe, kind of materials. What is the most complex, tough problem you dealt with? Probably this right here. And the other most important and the other most difficult problem is how to create irregular shaped lots that take up as much space as possible and still look nice. These are like the two biggest problems I have right now. Will there be a dev pack with not obfuscated code? Maybe, I don't know. Will procedural buildings with different architectures not be difficult to implement? No. I mean, it's just more work. Alright, I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching today. I really had fun thinking about stuff together, although we didn't get as much done as usually. But it's really nice for me to see that this kind of interaction is also possible. I hope you enjoyed it. And you will see me next Tuesday in the next update. And then again in live streams, if nothing goes wrong, on Thursday and next Saturday. So, have a nice weekend. Bye.